The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Aliens of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved about, their tentacles, appendages, and antennae waving as they talked. Some floated, some crawled, and others walked on anywhere from 1 to 8 legs. The air was filled with a mix of beeps, clicks, and hums as translation devices worked overtime. Today was a big day. Representatives from every corner of the known universe had gathered for the annual Intergalactic Problem-Solving Summit. It was a chance for the brightest minds in the galaxy to show off their smarts and tackle the biggest issues facing spacekind. Drixel, a tall, blue alien with 3 eyes and long, wispy fingers, looked around the room with pride. As the head of the Galactic Council, he had organized this event for the past 200 years. He was sure this would be the best one yet. Attention, everyone. Drixel's voice boomed through the hall, amplified by the floating orbs that served as universal speakers. Please take your seats. We're about to begin. The chatter died down as the aliens found their spots. Some sat in chairs, others in bubbling liquid pods, and a few even hung upside down from the ceiling. Once everyone was settled, Drixel cleared his throat, or what passed for a throat in his species, and began to speak. Welcome, esteemed colleagues, to the 500th Annual Intergalactic Problem-Solving Summit. We have much to discuss today, from the growing space trash crisis to the shortage of dark matter fuel. But first, I have an exciting announcement. Just as Drixel was about to continue, the massive doors at the back of the hall creaked open. A hush fell over the crowd as all eyes, stalks, and sensors turned to see who was late to this important meeting. In walked a creature unlike any they had seen before. It stood on 2 legs and had 2 arms that swung at its sides. Its head was round and covered in short, dark fur. 2 eyes blinked nervously as it looked around the room. The being wore some kind of cloth covering over most of its pinkish body. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. What is that? Is it dangerous? How did it get past security? The whispers grew louder as the strange creature made its way down the center aisle. Drixel, usually so composed, found himself at a loss for words. He had been about to announce the arrival of a new species to the Galactic Council, but he hadn't expected them to show up like this. The creature stopped in front of Drixel and looked up at him. Then, to everyone's surprise, it spoke. Hi there. I'm Dave, from Earth. I was told to come here for some big space meeting. The universal translators crackled as they processed this new language. When Dave's words came through, the hall erupted in chaos. Aliens jumped from their seats, some in fear, others in curiosity. A few of the more excitable species even changed colors or let out defensive sprays. Order, order, Drixel shouted, trying to calm the crowd. This is the representative I was about to tell you about. Earth has recently developed faster-than-light travel and has been invited to join our council as observers. Dave gave an awkward wave to the crowd. Nice to meet you all. Sorry I'm late. Space traffic, you know? A few aliens chuckled nervously at what they assumed was a joke. Others just stared, still trying to process this strange new being. Drixel, regaining his composure, gestured to an empty seat. Please, Dave from Earth, join us. We were just about to begin discussing our most pressing galactic issues. As Dave made his way to the seat, he could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching his every move. He sat down carefully, trying not to touch anything he didn't understand, which was pretty much everything. The alien next to Dave, a gelatinous blob with 7 eye stalks, oozed away slightly. Dave tried to smile, but it came out more like a grimace. This was going to be an interesting meeting. Drixel cleared his throat again. Now then, let's begin with our first topic, the impending collision of a giant space rock with the planet Zygon Vulii. Any suggestions on how to handle this crisis? As the aliens launched into a heated debate full of complex scientific terms and mind-bending math, Dave sat quietly, his eyes growing wider by the minute. He was starting to think that maybe Earth wasn't as ready for this whole galactic community thing as they had thought. Little did Dave know, his presence at this meeting was about to change the course of galactic history. The weird new guy from Earth was in for one heck of a day. The Galactic Council meeting room was in an uproar. Aliens of all kinds were shouting, waving tentacles, and flashing colors in agitation. At the center of it all stood Drixel, the blue three-eyed leader, trying to keep order. "Please, everyone, calm down." Drixel's voice boomed over the chaos. "We must approach this problem logically." The problem in question was a massive space rock, bigger than most moons, hurtling towards the planet Zygon Vilii, home to over 12 billion sentient fungi. Zygon Vilii was a key player in the galactic economy. Its destruction would send shockwaves through the entire universe. As the aliens argued, Dave, the human newcomer, sat quietly in his chair. His eyes darted back and forth, trying to follow the rapid-fire debate. Most of the words went over his head, but he got the main idea. Big rock, important planet, bad news. A tall, spindly alien with glowing skin stood up. "We must use our quantum deflector array," it insisted. "By bending space-time around the asteroid, we can alter its course." "Nonsense," bellowed a short, stocky creature covered in thick fur. "The energy required would tear a hole in the fabric of reality. We should use antimatter bombs to blow it to smithereens." A cloud of shimmering gas floated to the center of the room. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Both plans are too risky. I propose we evacuate Zygon VII and let nature take its course." This suggestion was met with outrage. The Zygonians, a group of mushroom-like beings, puffed up in indignation. "Abandon our homeworld." "Never," their leader shouted, releasing angry spores into the air. As the debate raged on, Dave found himself growing more and more confused. These aliens had technology beyond his wildest dreams, yet they couldn't figure out how to stop a big rock. He scratched his head, trying to make sense of it all. Drixel called for order once again. "Let's approach this scientifically. What are the asteroid's exact specifications?" A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing a detailed 3D model of the space rock. Numbers and alien symbols swirled around it, displaying its size, mass, velocity, and composition. "As you can see," explained a multi-eyed alien covered in complex machinery, "the asteroid is primarily composed of dense metals. Its current trajectory will bring it into direct contact with Zygon VII in exactly 72 galactic standard hours." The room erupted into another round of arguments. Some aliens insisted on using gravity tractors to slowly alter the asteroid's course. Others proposed building a giant shield around Zygon Vilii. One particularly excitable alien even suggested trying to communicate with the asteroid, in case it was sentient. Dave listened to all of this with growing bewilderment. These ideas seemed incredibly complicated and, frankly, a bit ridiculous. He thought back to his days in school, learning about how early space agencies had planned for potential asteroid impacts on Earth. As the debate grew more heated, Dave felt a strange urge to speak up. But what could he, a simple human from a planet that had just figured out faster-than-light travel, possibly contribute to this discussion? Drixel, looking more and more frustrated, called for a vote on the top 3 proposals: the quantum deflector, the antimatter bombs, or the evacuation plan. The aliens began to shout their preferences, creating a cacophony of beeps, squawks, and rumbles. In the midst of this chaos, Dave slowly raised his hand. At first, no one noticed, but then the alien next to him, the gelatinous blob with 7 eye stalks, noticed the motion and fell silent. Like a wave, the quiet spread through the room as more and more aliens turned to look at the strange human. Drixel, noticing the sudden hush, looked around in confusion. His 3 eyes widened when he saw Dave with his hand up. "Yes, Dave from Earth, did you have something to add?" All eyes, stalks, and sensory organs in the room turned to focus on Dave. He gulped nervously, suddenly aware of the attention, but something inside him said this was important. Taking a deep breath, he stood up. "Well," Dave began, his voice shaky but growing stronger, "I was just thinking. Back on Earth, we had plans for this kind of thing. And well, we always started with a pretty simple idea." The aliens leaned in, curious despite themselves. What could this primitive creature possibly suggest that they hadn't thought of? Little did they know, Dave was about to offer a solution so simple, so obvious, that it would change the course of galactic problem-solving forever. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Dave, the human, stood up. Hundreds of alien eyes, ranging from tiny specks to giant orbs, focused on him. Dave felt his palms sweat and his heart race, but he took a deep breath and began to speak. On Earth, we had a saying, "Keep it simple, stupid." Sometimes the easiest solution is the best one, Dave said, his voice echoing in the quiet room. Drixel, the blue three-eyed leader, leaned forward. "Go on, Dave from Earth. What is your simple solution?" Dave cleared his throat. "Well, why don't we just push it?" For a moment there was complete silence. Then, as if a dam had burst, the room exploded with noise. Some aliens laughed, others shouted in disbelief, and a few even changed colors in what Dave guessed was the alien equivalent of blushing. "Push it," exclaimed a floating crystal being. "That's absurd. The asteroid is massive." "Primitive thinking," scoffed a robotic alien. "We're dealing with complex celestial mechanics here." But Drixel raised all three of his hands, calling for quiet. "Let's hear him out," he said, curiosity evident in his voice. "Dave, please explain what you mean by push it." Dave nodded, grateful for the chance. "Look, I know it sounds silly, but hear me out. You've got spaceships, right? Big ones." A tentacled alien waved its appendages. "Of course, we have cargo ships the size of small moons." "Perfect," Dave continued, growing more confident. "So, what if we use those ships to push the asteroid? Like attach some kind of space rope to it and just tug it off course." The room buzzed with murmurs. Some aliens still looked skeptical, but others seemed to be considering the idea. A small green alien with an oversized head suddenly piped up. "Wait a moment. I think the human might be onto something." All eyes turned to the green alien, who was frantically scribbling calculations on a holographic display. "If we use our largest ships and create a force field tether, we could theoretically alter the asteroid's trajectory by just 0.002 degrees, and that would be enough to miss Zygon Vulai." The room erupted into excited chatter. Aliens began pulling out their own calculation devices, running the numbers and discussing the possibilities. Dave stood there, a bit bewildered by the sudden change in atmosphere. He hadn't expected his idea to be taken seriously, let alone cause such excitement. Drixel's voice boomed over the noise. "Quiet, please. Exult, our top physicist. What do you think of this plan?" A shimmering, multi-dimensional being floated to the center of the room. It spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The human's suggestion, while surprisingly simple, has merit. Our advanced technology could indeed make such a push possible and effective." The excitement in the room grew. Aliens who had been arguing just moments ago were now eagerly discussing how to implement Dave's idea. "We could use the quantum thrusters from the Andromeda fleet. The Zygonian fungal engineers could design the perfect attachment point on the asteroid. My people can provide the energy needed for the force field tether." As the aliens collaborated, Dave stood there, amazed at how quickly things had turned around. He felt a gentle tap on his shoulder and turned to see Drixel smiling at him. At least, Dave thought it was a smile. "Dave from Earth," Drixel said, his three eyes twinkling. "It seems your simple solution might save billions of lives. Perhaps there's more to learn from your species than we realized." Dave felt a surge of pride, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. "Thanks," he said, grinning. "We may not have all the fancy tech you guys have, but we're pretty good at thinking outside the box." As the council rapidly organized teams to implement the plan, Dave couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Who would have thought that humanity's first major contribution to galactic problem-solving would be the equivalent of cosmic tug-of-war? The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Dave found himself at the center of it all, explaining Earth concepts like towing and redirecting to fascinated aliens. He watched in awe as they adapted these simple ideas to their advanced technology, creating solutions that were both elegant and incredibly powerful. For the first time since he'd arrived, Dave felt like he truly belonged in this strange, wonderful gathering of galactic minds. And as he looked around at the diverse beings working together, he realized that sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to see the simplest path forward. The plan was set. Now, all they had to do was put it into action and hope that this human's simple idea would be enough to save an entire world. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity unlike anything Dave had ever seen. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council had transformed into a bustling command center. Holographic displays flickered everywhere, showing the massive asteroid's path and the fleet of ships assembling to intercept it. Dave stood in the middle of it all, feeling both amazed and a little out of place. Aliens of all shapes and sizes rushed past him, shouting orders in languages his translators struggled to keep up with. Zrixel, the blue three-eyed leader, floated over to Dave. "Are you ready to see your plan in action, Dave from Earth?" Dave nodded nervously. "I hope it works. I'd hate to be known as the guy who messed up his first galactic crisis." Drixel made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Don't worry. Your simple idea has given us hope. Now, let's watch it unfold." A massive screen lit up, showing a view from one of the lead ships. The asteroid loomed large, a dark mass against the star-speckled background. As Dave watched, a fleet of ships, each the size of a small city, moved into position around the giant rock. "Tether ships in position," called out a tentacled alien from a nearby console, initiating force field connection. Beams of energy shot out from the ships, wrapping around the asteroid like glowing ropes. Dave held his breath, half expecting them to snap or fizzle out, but they held firm, creating a web of light around the massive space rock. "Connection stable," the alien reported, its tentacles waving excitedly. "All ships report ready for synchronized pull." Zrixel nodded and pressed a glowing button on his command podium. "All ships, commence Operation Space Tug." Dave couldn't help but grin at the operation name. It seemed his Earth lingo was catching on. On the screen, the fleet of ships began to move as one. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The asteroid continued on its path, seemingly unaffected by the massive ships straining against it. Minutes ticked by. Dave felt sweat beading on his forehead. What if it didn't work? What if his simple idea wasn't enough? Suddenly, a cheer went up from one of the monitoring stations. "We have movement. The asteroid's trajectory is changing." Dave leaned in, squinting at the display. Sure enough, the projected path of the asteroid was ever so slightly bending away from the doomed planet. "It's working," Dave exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement. The room erupted in alien cheers, a cacophony of squeaks, rumbles, and flashing lights. Dave found himself being patted on the back and head and knees by various alien appendages. But the celebration was short-lived. An alarm blared, cutting through the joy. "Alert!" called out a crystalline being from a glowing console. "The asteroid's composition is not uniform. Its rotation is causing strain on the tethers." On the screen, Dave could see some of the energy ropes flickering and stretching. The coordinated movement of the ships began to falter as they struggled to maintain their hold. "We're losing it," someone shouted. The asteroid's path began to wobble, threatening to swing back towards its original devastating course. Dave felt his heart sink. Had they come so close only to fail? But then, a new voice cut through the panic. "I have an idea." It was the small, green alien with the oversized head, who had first supported Dave's plan. "The asteroid's rotation is causing the problem," the green alien explained quickly. "What if we use it to our advantage? If we adjust our pull to match its rotation, we could create a slingshot effect." There was a moment of stunned silence, then a flurry of activity as the aliens ran calculations and adjusted their strategy. Drixel turned to Dave. "What do you think? It's a modification of your plan." Dave grinned. "I think it's brilliant. On Earth, we call that thinking on your feet." Orders were shouted, and the ships on the screen began to move in a new pattern. Instead of pulling straight, they started to move in a curved path, matching the asteroid's spin. For a tense moment, it seemed like everything might fly apart. The tethers strained, the ship's engines glowed white-hot, and the asteroid wobbled dangerously. Then suddenly, it all clicked into place. The asteroid's rotation, once fighting against them, now added to their momentum. Its path began to curve more sharply, swinging wide around the threatened planet. A roar of triumph filled the command center. Aliens jumped, floated, and pulsated with joy. Displays lit up green as new calculations showed the asteroid would now miss Zygon VI by a safe margin. Dave stood there, a goofy grin on his face, as Drixel raised all three hands for quiet. Thanks to Earth's simple idea and our combined efforts, we have averted disaster, Drixel announced. This is a historic moment of cooperation for our galactic community. As the celebrations continued around him, Dave felt a warmth in his chest. He had come to this meeting feeling like an outsider, a primitive newcomer to the galactic stage. Now he realized that sometimes a fresh perspective was exactly what was needed. The crisis wasn't over. They still had to guide the asteroid safely past Zygon VI, but Dave knew that together they would find a way. After all, the universe had just witnessed the power of keeping things simple. All eyes in the Galactic Council's command center were glued to the big screen. The giant space rock was getting closer to planet Zygon VI. Dave, the human who came up with the space-tug idea, stood next to Drixel, the blue alien leader. Everyone was very quiet and nervous. 10 minutes left, said a squid-like alien from a glowing desk. Dave's heart was beating fast. He whispered to Drixel, "How close is too close?" Drixel blinked his three eyes one by one. If it's closer than 100,000 kilometers, it could be very bad for Zygon VI. The minutes felt like hours. The asteroid got closer and closer to the mushroom-shaped planet. Dave could see the spaceships pulling hard, their energy ropes glowing bright. 1 minute left, shouted the squid alien. Everyone held their breath. Some aliens were shaking. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. The asteroid looked huge on the screen. Zygon VI was right behind it. 3, 2, 1. For a scary moment, it looked like the asteroid might hit the planet. But then, it slid past, missing Zygon VI by a safe distance. The room was quiet for a second. Then a tentacle alien yelled. It worked. The asteroid missed by 150,000 kilometers. Suddenly, everyone was cheering. Aliens were jumping, floating, and changing colors with joy. It looked like a crazy space party. Dave felt very happy and proud. He had helped save a whole planet. Drixel raised his hands for quiet. Thanks to Dave from Earth's simple plan and all our hard work, we saved Zygon VI. This is a big day for all of us. Everyone cheered again. Some aliens picked up Dave and carried him around the room like a hero. Then, some mushroom-looking. The days following the asteroid crisis were a whirlwind for Dave. He found himself at the center of attention in the Galactic Council, with aliens of all shapes and sizes wanting to talk to him, learn about Earth, and hear more of humanity's simple but effective ideas. One morning, Dave walked into the grand meeting hall to find it bustling with activity. Drixel, the blue three-eyed leader, floated over to him. "Ah, Dave from Earth. Just the being we wanted to see," Drixel said, his eyes blinking in sequence. "We have some exciting news for you." Dave smiled nervously. "More exciting than having a moon named after me." Drixel made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Perhaps. The Council has been discussing Earth's position in the galactic community. We'd like to offer Earth full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately." Dave's jaw dropped. "Full membership? But I thought that process took years." "Normally, yes," Drixel explained. "But your contribution during the crisis has shown us that Earth has much to offer. We believe faster integration will benefit everyone." As Dave stood there, stunned, a group of aliens approached. He recognized the mushroom-like Zygonians, the crystalline beings, and even the cloud of shimmering gas that had once doubted his plan. The lead Zygonian spoke, its cap changing colors rapidly. "We've been talking, Dave from Earth. Your simple solution saved our world. We think the galaxy needs more of that kind of thinking." The crystalline being chimed in, its facets glittering. "Yes, we've become too reliant on complex technology. Sometimes we need to step back and see the bigger picture." Dave felt a warmth spreading in his chest. "I'm honored, really, but I'm just one guy. I can't represent all of Earth." Drixel waved a hand dismissively. "Of course not. We'll be inviting more humans to join us. But you've opened the door, Dave. You've shown us that humans have a unique perspective that can benefit us all." As if on cue, a holographic display lit up, showing scenes from Earth. Aliens gathered around, wooing and awing at the diverse landscapes, cultures, and achievements of humanity. "Your species has accomplished much with limited technology," observed the gaseous alien, its voice like wind chimes. "Imagine what you could do with access to galactic knowledge." Dave watched the display, feeling a surge of pride for his home planet. "We've still got a lot to learn," he said, "but we're eager to do so." Drixel raised all three hands for attention. "Then it's settled. Earth will join the Galactic Council as a full member. Dave, would you do the honor of informing your people?" Dave's head spun. He was about to make first official contact between Earth and the galactic community. Yes, of course. But what should I say?" The Zagonian's cap rippled in what Dave had learned was amusement. "Just keep it simple. It worked well last time." Laughing, Dave stepped up to a communication console. With guidance from a friendly tentacled alien, he established a secure link to Earth's top scientific facility. Taking a deep breath, Dave spoke. "Hello, Earth. This is Dave, your representative to the Galactic Council. I have big news. We're not alone in the universe, and, well, they want to be friends." The response was immediate. Cheers erupted from the Earth side of the communication, mixed with a flurry of questions. Dave spent the next hour explaining the basics of the galactic community and Earth's new role in it. As he finished the call, Dave turned to find the entire council watching him with what he hoped was approval. Drixel floated forward. "Well done, Dave from Earth. Simple, clear, and effective. You're learning our ways already." Dave grinned. "Actually, I think you're learning ours." The hall filled with alien laughter. As Dave looked around at his new galactic friends, he realized that this was just the beginning. Earth was about to enter a new era, one of cosmic cooperation and adventure. So Dave said, clapping his hands together, "What's next on the galactic agenda? Any other big rocks need pushing?" The aliens exchanged glances, then burst into another round of laughter. Drixel's three eyes twinkled with mirth. "Oh, Dave from Earth, I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship. The galaxy may never be the same, and that's a good thing." As the council members gathered around to discuss the next steps, Dave couldn't help but smile. Who would have thought that humanity's entry into the galactic stage would come not through advanced technology, but through simple, common-sense ideas? The future was bright, and it was going to be an interesting ride. Dave was just glad he remembered to pack his towel.